young man before me, James Lewis, who was the first coach for the Mystics, we all played football together, basketball. We used to go over to the Virginia Theological Seminary. There's a field on Quaker Lane. And every Sunday or Saturday, we actually played baseball or football. And we enjoyed the field out there. And, there were a few injuries, a few broken legs and things like that. But during that time, the Alexandria Hospital was in the city of Alexandria, about 7 miles away, and you really just pat yourself up. Unless you broke something, you didn't go to the hospital. And as you in my age group, you can remember mercurochrome and peroxide cured everything. And so at that time, we weren't worried about injuries. We had no equipment and all that. These were all pickup games that we had in seminary. But as I said, the tight-knit family and the families, they all knew each other, and we enjoyed each other. As I left and came back when I was 17, I went in the Air Force on a buddy plan with a friend of mine, Clyde Casey, and we come back. But when I come back, of course, the redevelopment was there, and we lived on Woods Place. And like I say, there were no more houses on King Street unless you lived on the east side. Oh, I'm sorry, the north side of King Street. Some of those houses were left. But as I said, they took ours and built a school there. But then again, I also, during the summer, I stayed with my mother down in the Burg. Yes, I just had and I thought that was a plus for me. I stayed down the Burg in the city of Alexandria, and I lived in seminary and in the country, but I had the best of both worlds because growing up, the persons we went to school with, or the friends that I grew up and went to school with that lived in Alexandria, we still meet together from time to time. A group of us actually meet at the restaurant on Duke Street, and we call ourselves the Old Dogs because the youngest person that meet with us has to be, I don't say has to be, but he's 75 years old. The rest of us are older, but we come around, it's any time from 15 to 35 guys, and we just come for the camaraderie. We come, and it started out with 5 of us who went to Parker Gray, but in the last few months, or actually the last 5 years, it grew, and we started off getting guys who actually went to Parker Gray, but we include as many folks as we can now, no matter what school it is, for the camaraderie. And we get together, and it's amazing how we can still tell the same stories, and we embellish these stories that happened to us in school. And every time we get together, there's a new lie, but a new story that's been embellished, and we laugh, and we joke, and we just enjoy one another's company as we did when we grew up. So, like I said, living in Alexandria for me, when I left the Air Force and went away, I found out that Alexandria, in its uniqueness, no matter where I went, I found that there was a certain togetherness and a certain camaraderie that the African Americans in Alexandria had in supporting each other, supporting one another. And as I said, we still do that as much as we can, And the churches in Alexandria, we used to have revivals and get together, and now you got new folk here. And although it doesn't seem like as churches, we get together like we used to, but we still have that camaraderie, and we still get together as often as we can, when we can. This library here, I can remember this library and not being able to come into this library. And now we have a African American section. So we see the growth in the country, but we also see the growth in Alexandria and the barriers that are being broken. However, Alexandria, in the city of Alexandria, at one time we had plenty of African Americans, and right now the city has grown unaffordable, really, for African Americans and people who just don't have that income. But this city was a great city, and I think it still is a great city to grow up in. Uh, I, I myself now live in Dumfries. I had to move out of the city and move down to Dumfries. However, my church is here, Oakland Baptist Church. My wife attends the St. Joseph Catholic Church, and we still do all our business basically in Alexandria, Virginia. It's just hard to get away from a place when you grow up and you're still in the area, and you're going to come back to the area, especially when you have the connection. And the biggest thing for me, the connection, is our church, because I'm kind of involved with the church quite a bit. I also kind of the historian or caretaker for the Oakland Baptist Church Cemetery, which is up at the fort, and the cemetery is on the National Historic Register. And from time to time, I'll get a call, and folks will ask me about the graves and who's up there, and and all I can tell you is the grave was donated by Clara Adams and her husband, really the Javens family, and those are folks that my grandfather, my grandfather's mother, Bernie. Those were that's her sister. Clara Adams was her sister, actually. So we're tied into this community, and we're connected, in many ways, and we're still connected. And we're appreciative that the Alexandria Library would do something like this to bring out what's going on in this area, and really show that African Americans did contribute to this area, and I'm very appreciative of that. I was not angry about it because I saw the progress. As I said, I lived on King Street, and I can remember when my grandmother had the only phone. They had party lines then, and folks, the pastor across the street, Reverend Preston, I remember when them coming across the street to use my grandmother's phone. But also, Woods Place and Johnson Lane, when I grew up, all had outdoor toilets and didn't have plumbing and things like that. When I come back, at one time where we had maybe 50, 60, well, I say at least 50 homes, there are only like 35, which is the seminary community behind the city, the high school, behind the high school. We're still there. When I first come back, that property, it still was an African American neighborhood. However, now it's integrated, and as I said, they're progressing, and the change was for the better due to the conditions at that time. We still are progressing. So the change, I just thought that it improved the neighborhood. Some folks lost some housing, and everybody didn't get to stay, but it still improved the neighborhood. No, I don't have anything to add about the seminary neighborhood, and I think that's what I focused on. As I said, I'm not going to get into every house, but I actually remember each and every house that was in seminary. And I remember our mentors in seminary, which was the pastor, Reverend Preston and Reverend Mills, but also I have a friend, I want to say he's 94, his name was Edward Henry, who was our mentor, who, when we went to the basketball courts, and we used to play up behind the Catholic church, because at one time we didn't have a basketball court, but we used to call him Taff. He was really a mentor to all the young men in my age group in seminary at one time. And I call him the shade tree mechanic, but he fixed our cars. He encouraged us about getting jobs. And he worked in Alton County, and he was like a supervisor. And if you needed a job, he helped others to get jobs there. And but we just had that tightness, that community, and we enjoyed, as I said, we enjoyed each other's camaraderie or friendship, and especially the older men and women, mentored the young folk, and like I say, they all wanted us to grow up and contribute to the community, but also stay out of trouble, stay out of trouble, stay out of trouble. One of our pastors, the late Reverend Mills, used to tell the boys, keep your record clean. And at that time, 99 meant, we didn't absorb it, but today you look back on it and you know what he means, especially as African American coming up when we did. Keep your record clean. And we tried to do that. So I'm grateful for the neighborhood I grew up in. Grateful for the neighborhood I grew up in. And as I said, my grandparents raised me. I always went to see my mother, and our family just stayed connected. But actually, as I said, from 5 years old up until I left to go into the Air Force, I actually stayed with my grandparents. And at that time, behind our house was a creek on King Street. Yeah, that still was a creek running down behind our house from up the fort under the church all the way down through Chickapin. There was this creek. And Chickapin, I never knew what it was until another Miss Elizabeth Douglas, the late Miss Elizabeth Douglas, who was really the historian for us. And some of the things that I know I got from her, she explained to me what Chickapin was. And Chickapin was a pea, some kind of flower, some kind of seed. And we wondered how it got that name. But we were next to Chickapin, which is where T.C. Williams, is across the street from Chickapin now. And even though we grew up there and basically African American, that is the location where all the whites lived at that time. But we never had really any trouble. There was no riots, there was no fighting and things like that in seminary with the other people or the other race. We got along. We managed to mingle and we managed to get along. And so I really appreciate that, And another thing is we were instilled, whatever we do, wherever we go, always trust God. Trust God. There are values that you have that your family instill in you. And people want to get hung up on religion or something else, and there are things you don't discuss. But in growing up, because of my grandparents and my parents, I was taught to trust God and pray.